Hello everyone, my name is Meera Yadav, and as you know, today is Diwali. So today I thought let's just talk about the relationship between India and China. As you all know, that most of the crackers that we actually burn, so they are actually Chinese-made products. So today I thought let's just talk about the relationship between India and China. So historically, India and China have had coded relation for more than 2000 years. Traditional Silk Road not only served as a trade route, but also promoted the spread of Buddhism from India to China. Now, the modern relationship between India and China was set up in the year of 1950, when India became the first country to give recognition to People's Republic China as a legitimate government of the mainland China. However, in basically, the Tibet served as a buffer zone between India and China, and India considered China's forceful occupation of Tibet as an act of aggression, while China considered India's portion on the issue as an interference into the internal affairs of People's Republic of China. So therefore, in 1954, Panchshil Agreement was signed between both the countries, in which India finally accepted Tibet as a part of China. However, in 1959, India gave asylum to Tibetan religious leader Dalai Lama and thousands of refugees who sought sanctuary in Dharamsala in Himachal and in northeastern state to escape from the atrocities of People's Liberation Army. Now, this became the primary reason for the deterioration of the relation between both the countries, in which China and which leads to China accusing India of expansionism into Tibetan and throughout the Himalayan region, which further resulted into the Indo-China War of 1962. Now, talking about the border disputes, so there have been so many border disputes historically. We have had so many border disputes with China. Basically, China does not consider McMahon Line as a legal delineation between both the countries. It says that it has been agreed upon between the erstwhile British Raj and Tibet. So it demanded rectification of the entire border. Now, in 1959, China claimed around 104,000 square kilometer territory, over which India's map was clearly showing sovereignty. Now, unresolved border dispute resulted in the Indo-China War of 1962, in which Chinese troops pushed Indian troops to within 48 kilometers of the Assam plain in the northeastern states, and also occupied a strategic point in the Ladakh region, so that China can force India to give it control of the Ladakh region, particularly in place of Assam itself and the other northeastern part that is it actually occupied during 1962 Indo-China War. Now, in 1967 also, both the countries were involved in Sikkim outpost skirmishes. The first one is dubbed as Nathula incident, and the other one is dubbed as Chola incident. There has been several face-off between both the countries, like in 2030, in talking about like the Arunachal Pradesh statehood, like when in 1987 when India provided Arunachal Pradesh as a special statehood, which further caused both the sides to deploy new troops to the area, raising tensions and fear of new border war. China does not consider Arunachal Pradesh as a part of India's territory, but rather consider it as a part of Tibetan Autonomous Region, South Tibet region. And now, basically, the term line of actual control gained legal recognition after after Sino-India Border Agreement signed in 1993 and 1996. So the 1996 agreement states that no activity shall overstep the line of actual control, which was delineated like on the paper. However, both the sides have their own interpretation of line of actual control on the ground, which as there was no clear demarcation, which leading to the errors of perception and understanding of the previous agreement. Now, talking about the face-off that has been occurred between India and Chinese over the years. So, how can we forget about the face-off of 2013, which is a Dolat Beg Oldie incident, which was a 3-week standoff between both the countries. As Dolat Beg Oldie is very much strategically very important for India, as it provides complete access to Indian troops of the Siachen Glacier and also of the Tibetan Xinjiang Highway, which is the critical region where the CPEC start, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which connects China to Pakistan via POK, Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. Now, the 2014 incident of Chumar, which is a village actually, which borders the Himachal Pradesh, as it is the highest point also, through which Indian troops can keep surveillance of the Chinese troops movement. So strategically it is also very important, and China has been trying to reduce the dominance of India's over this region also. And the Demchug incident also. So basically Demchug is a village of the Leh district, which is very important as it is the region where the Indian border starts and the line of actual control finally ends, and also the region where the Indus River enters from China to India. And why it is important for India? It is important for India to provide irrigation to the northern region and to other part of the Ladakh region, and also to maintain water security not only in the Ladakh but also in the northern part of India. So along with that, it is also very important to keep surveillance of the southern Aksai region on the movement of the Chinese troops. So that is why China has been trying to alter the LAC along the Gilban Valley, which included these villages also. Now, talking about the 2017 Doklam incident. So Doklam is a plateau in Bhutan. So why India was involved in restricting the Chinese army from constructing, Chinese armed engineers from constructing this road, which was kind of connecting the Doklam plateau to Gipmochi mountain. Why? So the reason was very simple. So now Chinese entered into the Indian territory, like in the Sikkim outpost, and jostled with Indian troops who were guarding this India border, and besides destroying 2 bunkers. Now the Indian troops made human war against the Chinese troops from preventing them from further advancing into the Indian territory. The reason behind this standoff was very clear. When China was constructing the road to in Bhutan on the Doklam plateau, from Doklam plateau to the Gipmochi mountain, which sits near the Jamperi ridge that descends down the foothills of the Bhutan mountains and later on leads to the way to the Siliguri corridor, which is the primary supply line that physically connects India to its northeastern states. And if China would have been successful in constructing this road, then it could have provided China with a view to overlook the movements of the Indian troops in the Siliguri corridor, and could have blocked that Siliguri corridor if the tensions would have raised, and could have cut off the connectivity of India to its northeastern states. So that is why India, as a result of the friendship treaty between India and Bhutan, India stopped the construction of that road in that Doklam plateau, as it comes under the Bhutan, but China claimed that it is their part of their territory. So this was the reason behind this Doklam incident. Now talking about the current standoff, as you must have heard about the Gilwan Valley, you must have heard about the Pangong Lake, because China has long been trying to dominate that part. So talking about the Gilwan Valley incident, so in 2020, China started increasing military near the Gilwan Valley. So now the line of actual control along the Gilwan Valley was never disputed. But later on, China entered within 3 kilometers and later claimed that it is their territory. So Corps commander level tasks were held for negotiations, and later it was decided that a buffer zone will be created between the LAC and the junction of the Shyok and Gilwan River to prevent further face-off. So now both the armies were to move back by 1 kilometer in that area. So when Colonel Santosh Babu was monitoring the process, he noticed that Chinese camp were still there. So he went to get it removed, which resulted into the clash. And around 20 Indian soldiers were martyred and 43 Chinese soldiers were killed. So this was the first time after the 1962 war that soldiers were dead in a clash. So post Galwan Valley incident, India took strict economic measures by banning Chinese app, including TikTok. Now talking about the importance of Galwan Valley, why China has been trying to gain its dominance over the Galwan Valley. So recently, India has completed the construction of Dolat DSDBO road, which is a lifeline for the Indian troops deployed in Dolat Beg Oldi, which is close to Karakoram Pass, through which China-Pakistan Economic Corridor connects China to Pakistan via Pakistan occupied Kashmir (POK). And not only that, DBO, like the Dolat Beg Oldi, is the highest airfield which connects Leh to Siachen Glacier at the base of the Karakoram Pass. Now, Darbuk Shiog Dolat Beg Oldi Road is a 255-kilometer long road which connects Leh to Siachen Glacier at the base of the Karakoram Pass, and also provide India complete access to Siachen Glacier. Not only provide India complete access to Siachen Glacier, but also provide Indian Army access of the Tibetan Xinjiang Highway, which is the critical region where the CPEC starts, China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. That is why it is strategically very important for India. And now the China presence in this region, in the Galwan Valley, threatens India's DSDBO road, in which China restrict India to further develop its more routes to provide connectivity to the Indian troops. That is why India is kind of concerned about the Galwan Valley. Now talking about the Pangong Lake incident. So China started increasing its deployment of troops and equipments across the Pangong Lake. So there are mountain spots that are coming down towards the lake, and that are coming down towards the lake, forming finger-like projections. So these geographical locations, like these finger-like projections, these geographical locations are referred as fingers. And earlier, there were 8 fingers. So India used to do patrolling till 8 fingers, but China told India to limit only to finger 4. But the dispute happened between India and China when China built bunkers and tents, like between the finger 3 and finger 4, to stop India from patrolling beyond finger 4, which resulted into the facio, and India resorted aggressive patrolling. Now, talking about the importance of Pangong Lake. So historically, Pangong Lake has a history of producing salt, and now if India can get the full control over the Pangong Lake, then it can be converted into the site of producing salt, and India can export salt to other countries also, which will thereby contributing in the GDP of a country. So it can become the site of salt producing. As we are not having full control over it, only 45 kilometers is in our control. And it is the Pangong Lake is having length of around 135 kilometers, and only 45 kilometers is under our control. The rest of the part of the Pangong Lake is in the control of China. And you must be aware about this Pangong Lake. You must have seen 3 Idiots, the iconic movie, and the climax scene of 3 Idiot movie was also seen near this Pangong Lake, after which it became the site of tourists. Now, as China has been trying to gain influence over this Pangong Lake, so it has been like the tourists are not visiting this place, as it has been blocked by the Chinese troops. So if you want to visit the Pangong Lake, you need to have line of permit to explore the lake. It is a very beautiful lake. Now talking about, like, India have had strong dominance in the southern bank of the Pangong Lake because of its proximity to the regions like Chushul and Rizangla, because of that reason. But India is still there has been like complete disengagement agreement has been signed between India and China, in which there were two things like India, like the agreements regarding patrolling, in like along the LAC, like the line of actual control, whatever areas we have under LAC, we need to have that allowance to patrol in that region without any restrictions. And the second thing is that whatever constructions has been done by the China post 2020, they need to be demolished under this disengagement process. So it has been completed, but according to the military sources, still there the things on the ground level are quite different. They may seems to be like as if there has been complete disengagement agreement signed between India and China, but on the ground level things are quite different. As we know how China kind of betray each and every time. It has betrayed even after us by doing this, by doing the war of 1962 between India and China, even after signing the Panchsheel Agreement, which was a peaceful agreement between India and China. Now talking about the China's larger strategic objective. What is China's largest strategic objective? The first one is that basically incursions from China continue despite protest and movement by India. China has highly developed surface and air communication facilities across all along the Tibetan Autonomous Region, and China is in the process to develop a dozen more airfields in Tibet. India's sites, on the other hand, is highly underdeveloped with difficult terrains, making movements and reinforcement of troops laborious and time-consuming task. So now, how to counter China? How can we counter China? How can we contain China? So the thing that there can be two ways through which we can counter China. The first one is diplomatic, and the second one is military. How diplomatically? So India must pursue actively act look east policy by engaging all Southeast Asian countries who have clashing interest with China, the China in the South China Sea, and further forging ties with Japan to project collective front. And along with that, it needs to increase its participation in the activities of Quad, like joint military exercises, to put pressure on the China. The third thing that India can do diplomatically, to counter China diplomatically. The third thing that it can do, China is faced by internal challenges to maintain its social stability that can be exploited by India. For example, Taiwan poses threats to secession. It wants to get separated completely from China. Second thing is that Hong Kong wants political freedom, rising demand of Tibetans, and violent demands of Uyghur Muslims. Now, talking about how we can counter China on military level. So India needs to maintain as assertive stance to projecting its footprint. Emphasis must be laid on patrolling and surveillance using satellites, unmanned air vehicles, and battlefield surveillance radars. And along with that, India needs to increase its force level along the LAC, along the LAC and northeastern border with China. Towards this end, a new mountain corps is being raised to meet this explicit requirement. Along with that, India on military level, if we talk about a military level, so India needs to deployment of strategic assets along the Indo-China border is very important, like the deployment of Agni 5. It is very important as it will serve as a deterrent to China when there will be deployment of strategic assets like Agni 5. And also, as we have recently developed the Zorawar tank, which is a specifically made for mountain warfare, as it can be used in the high altitude easily with difficult terrains also. So this is what India needs to do. Now, this was all about the relations between India and China. I hope you must have enjoyed. And yeah, let me know what other steps can India take to counter China. Thank you.